We're in the kitchen again today, and I want to share with you one of the easiest, quickest recipes you'll ever make, but a really important one to know. If by chance you've made applesauce like I have just done, and you have a whole bunch of cores and peelings and even the seeds and stems, every part of it that couldn't be eaten, well, don't let this go to waste. We are going to make a 3-ingredient, if you count water as an ingredient, we're going to make a 3-ingredient recipe that is delicious apple core jelly. No pectin needed, no extras except for really just sugar and water. So stay tuned. Literally, this recipe is so easy you'll miss it if you blink, so just watch close. I'm going to put all the apple cores and every bit of the little extras into a pan, and I'm going to cover it almost to the top with water. So literally, just fill this all the way up until it's almost to the top of those. After that, I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on tightly and let it boil down probably for about 20 minutes. There's no scientific, but the longer you let it boil, the yummier that flavor of apple is going to come out, and the more apple pectin is formed into that water to make it a nice jelly later. So about 20 minutes boiling down. Make sure it doesn't run out of water for sure. And once you've done it about 20 minutes, you're going to strain out all of the apple cores and peelings and every bit, so it's just a nice clearish goldeny syrup. You'll add 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and that's it. So it's boiled for a bit, and I'm going to go ahead and take the lid off and check it out. Looks like it's plumped up maybe just a smidgen here, and you're seeing that they're starting to lose their color. That's just what we want. By the time we're done, it's going to have kind of a goldeny liquid, and it's not anywhere close to that yet. But for the rest of the time that we boil it, we're going to leave the lid off, mostly so that the water can kind of just evaporate a little bit and it helps it concentrate down instead of being trapped under that lid. But we'll give it another 10 or 15 minutes and it'll have boiled down nicely into a kind of a more goldeny syrup down in the bottom. So what I've got here is a strainer, and I've robbed the wonderful little funnel from my project of canning, but it makes the perfect holder for this strainer since the strainer itself doesn't have its own handle on it. So I just literally set that right into my little bowl, and I'm going to pour this into it, and then I'm going to mash out the apples so that just the liquid comes through and it catches all the rest of this whatever left over that we've got here. A little bit got onto the bottom of that pan, and you know what, it's okay. But we do want it pretty cleaned out because we're going to put it back into the pan as soon as we get the liquid out of it. We're going to put it right back into the pan and put it back on the heat with a little bit more water and that 3/4 of a cup of sugar that's standing by. You see the liquid all squishing out the bottom there. And this will take me just a couple of minutes, but I'll just spend, 2 or 3 minutes pressing the apples against the side of the strainer. All right, I think I've got as much as I'm going to be able to squeeze out. And we're going to set this over into the sink, and I'll pour that juice back into the pan. Some people that like it really, really void of all chunks would make sure that they strained it even better one more time, and they would have cleaned the pan a little bit better than I've cleaned it so it doesn't have any extra apple in there, but I really don't mind. I love apple jam or jelly just fine, but you see I've got it in there, and now I'm going to just add that 3/4 of a cup of sugar that we talked about, which looks like a desperately large amount right now, but I'm going to go ahead and add about a cupful of water. Now, you can add a little or a lot of water, it doesn't matter, but the more you add, the longer you're going to have it boil down, so keep that in mind. But you're going to just put in enough that it fills the pan about halfway-ish. That's what I do. There's no scientific method to it. This is the part that gets everybody just a little bit hung up. It's the only important part that you need to kind of remember about this recipe. When you're boiling it, it's going to come up to about 215 degrees on that candy thermometer really easily as it boils. but you need to let it boil and boil, and sometimes it feels like forever. But watch the thermometer, and as soon as it gets to 220, that's the magic number for you to know, hey, this is gonna work out and turn into jelly when I pour it into my little container that's waiting by. So be patient with it, keep boiling it, turn the heat up slowly and gently until you get it to where it's gonna come up to 220 exactly, and don't scrimp. If you're a few degrees shy of that, you're gonna probably regret it. Some of us are used to doing this and you can kind of just feel it and you know when it's right. But for the rest of us, if you haven't done this enough times, make sure you get a candy thermometer that reads 220 and you'll know, okay, I'm good to go and I can take it and have jelly gonna form as soon as I pour this into my container. Thank the Lord it finally hit it. And I'm telling you, we must have stood there for a good, oh man, it seemed like 10 minutes boiling that before it finally shot up to the 220 mark. But now it's that perfect golden syrup that we want to see. I'm going to strain it just one more time to make sure we get all of those apple chunks out. But it's exactly what I want to see. And so I'm going to remove it here. And I'm going to get a little strainer out of my drawer. Here we go. All right, I've got 2 jars standing by. I thought I would only need 1, but I think we might need 2. I'm going to just pour it in there carefully. Let the last bits of that apple be caught. Beautiful. It's exactly the way we want it to look. All right, I'm going to pour some more in there. It's just beautiful. All right, there's one. I'm going to move to the next container here. All right, here we go. And let me spoon that a little bit. You can see it thickens really fast as it gets cool. It's still very, very hot. All right, I think we got it. I'm not getting any more juice, so I'm going to set that in the pan. All right, I've got some beautiful product here at the end of it. You see it's super hot, and really I don't need to set the lid on tight. I might just let it sit like this until it cools down a little bit. But if you have a way to seal it up and you want to, I actually notice on my jars that oftentimes if I seal them, it almost cans itself. In other words, like this one here, it's so hot right now, if I put on a lid and the ring, it will, through the night as it sits there, it'll suck that down a lot of times just because it's so extremely hot, and it'll have a little dimple in it in the morning. Now that's not a true seal that I would count on to just set it away in a cabinet for a long time. We'll probably eat it within the next couple of weeks, but this is a fantastic way to make apple jelly, and it's going to delight everybody who tastes a little bit of it on their morning toast. Phew! All right, it has been a long and hot process. We've had a lot of steam in the kitchen, and thankfully, with a good amount of patience and stirring, it finally got to 220 degrees, made the perfect jelly. We were able to pour it into 2 little containers, and the only thing I can think of that would be better than just eating this plain would be perhaps smeared over the most wonderful homemade bread that my grandma would make to go with this. I hope you'll try this easy, simple recipe. This is so delicious. You're going to be delighted with it, and it's so simple as long as you're patient and you're willing to sweat just a little bit. So share this video with someone who might be blessed by it. Go have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Hey, before you go, I want to leave you with this wonderful promise from the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 10. Listen closely. It says, "Don't be afraid of what you're about to suffer. I tell you, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you, and you will suffer persecution for 10 days. Be faithful, even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown." Now go spread the word.